ladies and gentlemen, my name is Totalbiscuit. Oh my god, it's Farmville! Nah, not really. It is a Facebook game. I want to give you a look at it, because actually it's kind of neat, and Facebook games are intriguing to me. And the reason they're intriguing to me is because back in the day, we used to have things that were quite like Facebook games, but they were strictly reserved for hardcore gamers. They were basically browser-based games. Yeah? Before MMOs really took off and before you could do all sorts of things, you were often limited to things like browser-based strategy games that occurred over a long period of time. And those kind of games were, again, strictly reserved for hardcore gamers. A lot of hardcore gamers played them. I'm thinking of things like Planetarian. I'm thinking of things like Droid Arena. I'm thinking of things like Cybots, Bushtarian, Empire Wars, things like that. They're still played. And then the concept was taken, and as technology advanced, specifically with browser-based stuff, Facebook actually became one of the venues for games like this. However, the focus shifted and the demographic shifted, and we have things like Farmville, which are blatantly not aimed at hardcore gamers. It's actually quite the opposite. Huh. Isn't that a strange turn of events? A strange switch over the course of a decade. We get a concept which was strictly hardcore, all the way around to casual. So, I have not played a lot of Facebook games as kind of as a direct result of that, because a lot of them weren't really marketed to me, except for this one. Now, this is Dungeon Overlord, and it's brought to you by the guys over at Sony Online Entertainment, and it is significantly more complicated than things like Farmville, although the principles kind of remain the same. It's also got a much cooler theme, because it's basically Dungeon Keeper in a browser. That's effectively what it is, at any rate. That's what it's blatantly trying to be. Very, very obvious. I mean, if we have a look at it, say, there's the den. You know, you used to have a den in that as well. Various different beds for the various different creatures. On this game, you have to actually craft the beds in order to attract the creatures, as opposed to, say, just having rooms as prerequisites. Admittedly, that is also part of it. There's your library, and of course the warlocks go in the library, just like they did in Dungeon Keeper. We've got a guard room, we have a storage room. Again, that's not something that was really in Dungeon Keeper. This game's got an awful lot more resource management than Dungeon Keeper had, a huge amount of stuff, as well as a fairly advanced crafting system beyond what we saw in Dungeon Keeper. There's your workshop, your alchemy, you got your mining going on right here, various different kinds of resources being mined, and of course your dungeon heart, vault, right there in the middle, which is where we keep the gold. Now, you might wonder what exactly is going on with this. When I click this, what happens? Why is this getting wrapped up in a little parcel? Well, they put in this method to stop you effectively botting the game and forcing you to come back and actually check on your dungeon every once in a while. All the resources that you gather have to somehow be picked up by you. Actually, there's one exception where you do raids and things like that and steal resources. That goes directly into your bank. But anything that's mined or created, like, say, if I'm mining this stuff, and indeed, well, probably best to have a look at my expansion dungeon. Actually, I can show you what I'm talking about right there. So everything that gets mined from, say, this node right here, up here, it's bloody scrolling. It's a flash game, folks. It's a little tricky. So all of this stuff, this iron right there, that's going to be picked up by me, and if it just is left there and stacks, then once it fills up the area and gets to the maximum size it can be, I can't gather any more. So I'm forced to go back here. Research is kind of the same thing. You pick up the piles of papers and books and little globes. This is a primordial element right here. It's one of the rarer elements, and we could have to pick that up as well. That will go into where it needs to go. And gold, which is probably the most important thing, because storing gold in piles is very difficult. For instance, mining, when anything gets mined, it gets dumped in the mining area. Anything that gets mined from a gold node goes in here, which has very limited space, as you can see. I have a few stack-enhancing items here. These treasure chests and these jewel cases allow me to stack more there, but once it gets to around 4,000, basically you can't stack anymore, so you've got to go pick it up, otherwise mining extra will not help in any way, shape, or form. Anyway, we'll go back to the main dungeon. I'll give you a look around, and I'll try and explain what exactly I kind of like about this game. I mean, I call this WTF Is, but I've been playing this probably for about a month or so now, just because it's kind of intriguing. Also, the music going on in the background, very, very boring loop. It goes on for about 30 seconds. It's Hall of the Mountain King, and it keeps looping around over and over and over again, but it's kind of nice to have in the background anyway while I'm recording. So, you start off with a dungeon heart, and you start a dungeon, and you get a den, and you build one of these, and you go through various technologies. So, if we have a look and say, let's try and build something, at least I would if I actually had any tiles spare. There's a tile limit in this game. So, hallway, alchemy lab, den, etc., etc., and you got all these different buildings. I haven't researched all of them yet, but you get yourself a mine, you go mine some resources, which you can use to make other stuff. You also then have your minions. Every time you place a bed down for a various minion type, then you will attract that minion type. So these are warlock beds, these are orc beds, that's an ogre hammock, and indeed we also have 2 guard posts here which attract dark elves, and a dark cellar which attracts a thief. Now if we have a look at this will show you exactly how many creatures I have and what they do. Orcs, dark elves, warlocks, etc. Warlocks are your primary researchers. You kind of need them for, well, researching. Thieves are awesome. You can see I've spent an awful lot of money training this guy up, because one of your best methods to get money in this game, or indeed rare resources, is to steal it from the good guys. Always a way to do it. So I have a level 44 thief. Now, training costs resources, so if I wanted to train this guy up, then I would have to look into that. I can actually get him up to level 50 if I so desire right now, and I think I'm going to do that right now, because, hey, the more advanced my thief, the more carrying capacity he has, and of course, the more advanced things he can start to steal from. Also, I am noting that snoring in the background is getting rather irritating. Let's move away from that. As is the dinging. It's like this dungeon is full of wind chimes. Evil wind chimes of doom, ladies and gentlemen. So you get your resources, you store your resources, you can then use your resources to craft things like furniture for your dungeon. Now, all of this actually has a bonus. So say if I built storage crates, I get a storage bonus. If I build a test tube rack, I'd get a storage bonus, and indeed, elements of my dungeon would be safe from looting. Trapdoors. Get myself a thief, turbo miners, increase mining, etc., etc. And you gain access to more of these as you get more buildings and you do more research. This is the research that I'm looking at right now. These are the research points that I have, so I can't research anything at the moment, but that's the level I'm at. If we have a look at the future technologies, you see it's all of this technology available for you. Overlord Mastery, you need all sorts of crazy stuff in order to get to this point. And that's all the technology I've actually researched. So, why do you even bother with this? Well, what you try and do is you try and get your level up, and every time you gain a level, you can set up another dungeon. And generally speaking, you need multiple dungeons in order to craft the very best stuff. So, for instance, if I wanted to, say, upgrade, yeah? Well, have a look at this. If I want to upgrade this, and upgrading stuff is kind of important, you know, each of these rooms has 5 levels. So if I want to upgrade my den to level 5, I need gold. That's a basic resource. I need food, which I get from my farm right here. As you can see, little sluggies going all around there. And I also need steel ingots and reinforced lead. Steel ingots are crafted. So what do you craft a steel ingot from? Well, you can go and have a look. Let's go and have a look at resources. There you go. Steel ingot. A forge. Level 2 is required to make these. I need iron. I need primordial earth. So let's say I want to craft 3 steel ingots. I just click craft, and it would take some time to do it. Bear in mind, it's a browser-based game, which generally means that it is based around the idea of things taking an awful lot of time. You're not to it's not designed for you to spend a lot of time in. You have to jump in a couple of times a day to check on things, pick up resources. If something's finished, start something else off. And indeed, if you want to go and attack something, then things tend to take a while as well. So let's go to the overworld, and I'll show you exactly what I mean by attacking. There we go. Bear in mind, of course, as you can see, this product is still in beta, so it's not quite finished. Now, this is where I am, right? This mountain right here. And these buildings are the good guys, yeah? I can steal things from the good guys if I want. And indeed, that's a very, very good idea. I can go and raid them. Now, I'm going to use my thief, because my thief is really the only one that I've got that can raid one of these stronger settlements. You know, this is a level 2 settlement, which is really hard to raid, yeah? You can see right there, you need 6 level 25 orcs to go and attack it. So I don't have 6 level 25 orcs right now, but I do have a thief of extremely high rank, so I can send my thief in. Now, there's the travel time right there. Like I said, the thief is one of the fastest creatures, so imagine that some raids do take a little bit longer. Say if I were to add a warlock to it. Oh, look, 1 hour 53 till attack. So, yeah, it takes a little bit of time. We'll throw the thief in there, and I can set it to repeat 3 times. Like I said, this game doesn't really like automation. A lot of games like this don't. They require you to log in and actually do your stuff because it's all designed against botting and things like that. So I'm going to attack that, and what I will gain from that, hopefully, is a bunch of really cool resources. And as I say, raiding towns is a absolutely fantastic way to gain resources, particularly leather. Leather you can't actually get from inside a dungeon because where are you going to put the cows? They're not going to graze on lava and slugs, are they? So you have to go steal it from the good guys. So if I were to say send this level 30 orc over there, chances are he would be able to attack 3 times and do a little bit of raiding, probably go hit this one. These guys do not like me, as you can see. They really don't like me, and they're frequently sending attacks against my dungeon. However, my dungeon is more than well equipped to deal with it. Now, you also get quests in this game. These right here, as you can see, wants me to train something up to that. You get experience that way. There are 2 ways to gain experience in this game: completing quests and by getting certain rooms up to level 5, because then they then actually generate experience for you. So throughout the game, you get this massive set of tutorial quests that take you a good week or so to finish, and that'll basically teach you how to actually play the game. As you can see there, I've got these 2 dungeons available. One is called Nothing of Value, because I figure that's an absolutely fantastic way to stop people from attacking it, and YouTube comments is my other dungeon, because I couldn't think of anything more horrific. Now, bear in mind, you do also share with other overlords. All these guys are real players right here. Bob doesn't like me very much. You see, I attacked Bob, and Bob got very upset about that. And as you can see, he was very upset. Facebook games are extremely serious business, and I can totally understand his attitude. Seems entirely reasonable, the kind of thing that a normal person would do. Now, as regards to crafting and things like that, you do have an awful lot of resources that you have to gather, and there is an awful lot of work you have to do in order to get them. Like stuff like this, for instance. Have a look at this resource right here. It's called Deep Ochre, and it's a fairly advanced resource which is needed for advanced buildings and advanced training and advanced crafting. Yeah, the price per unit is about 165 on the black market. That's a lot. And bearing in mind you need about 300 or 400 pieces of this stuff to do anything, yeah, that's kind of expensive. It's like the Heart of Earth as well, really advanced things. So there's a lot of longevity in the game in terms of actually getting what you want. It's a game that requires quite a bit of patience. There is a lot of resource management in the game as well, and as regards to the combat, well, I can show you exactly what happens there, because all of the battle reports are actually kept as a record. So let's go and have a look at one of those. You don't have any direct control over the combat. I should just give you that information right now. So if you're looking for something, oh, I can move my stuff around. No, you cannot. They will defend as they see fit, but bear in mind that you could set up traps. So for instance, they have set up a spike trap at the entrance. That's going to do fairly consistent damage to anybody that stands on it. And you can set up more advanced traps as you go along, but spike traps are nice and cheap, and they do a reasonable amount of damage to groups of enemies. So let's go and have a look at a battle. So now, is there anything kind of reasonable? This looks okay. So I actually lost a bunch of dudes there. Wow. Oh, hell. They beat the crap out of my warlocks and stuff like that. I really have pissed them off an awful lot, and I should probably wait for things to cool down. But whatever the case, they did hit me pretty hard, but this should be a good example. So, let's go and give that a play, shall we? There we go. And then we start the battle playback. Now, your creatures will sort of be alerted. Oh my god, I'm getting deafened by horrible things. There we go. So they come in right here, and they will attack. You can see their HP damage being done. They've got Dark Elf at the back doing huge amounts of range damage, which is absolutely fantastic. They're sending in a whole bunch of dudes. Clerics for healers. Orcs at the front. Where the hell are my good orcs? I've got my ogres. Maybe I sent out my orc at the wrong time or something, because my level 30 orc should be able to clear these out no problem, but they don't even seem to be around. Obviously, I don't want my thief getting killed, but that's not all that likely at this point in time. Warlock's doing range damage over there. Clerics need to stop freaking healing people. My god. I know that's what they're designed to do, but hey. And yes, this game has frame rate issues in battles. That's Flash games for you. But yeah, that's the basics of that, and when you defeat enemies, they will drop treasure chests, which hopefully will consist of a reasonable number of resources. Now, I did lose a couple of dudes there, so I'm not too happy about that. What can we do to fix it? Well, obviously, once you lose a guy, you will get another one, as long as you have the necessary bed for that one to come along, so you'll attract a new creature. The problem is that my warlocks now are quite low level, and I've lost a bunch of high-level orcs as well, so my orcs are in kind of a bad way. Now, if you train them up, then they will be significantly tougher, so kind of short on gold right now, which is a little bit problematic. I should go and check out my other dungeon. I'm fairly sure there was some there. But I can set a training queue off there to train him up to level 7, which will hopefully make him a little bit more durable. Now, Resource management is kind of important, as I said, and having multiple dungeons is something you're going to have to deal with in this game. So right here, this dungeon that I'm using, this other one, is designed for mass mining, you know, really, really heavy mining operations. I have a huge amount of space dedicated to mining, and like I said, the tiles in this game are limited, so the size of your rooms is something you do need to plan, although you can sell parts of rooms in order to regain tiles and things like that. There are research items that give you tiles as well. So if I wanted to ship something over to my other dungeon, for instance, I've got a lot of iron here that I've been mining, and I've also been mining quite a lot of primordials, but you know, can't really justify sending them over right now, but what I can do is transfer like 3,000 iron over to my other one, so there you go, and send them over, give it to the little goblins. Off you go, little goblins, go and take some iron. And a nice little throwback to Dungeon Keeper. Like I say, a lot of elements have been taken from Dungeon Keeper, which is good, very, very good. You can, if you so desire, shock your goblins, or indeed any other creature. Makes them work a little bit more efficiently, although it makes them unhappy, not that you really care when it comes to your goblins. Right. I'll head back to the other dungeon right now. Have a look at some of the other things that are available. Like I say, I do find this kind of enjoyable, if I'm totally honest. I do. It is really fun. It's something that is a nice thing to sort of log in the morning and check out. It does have a fair amount of strategy involved in it, and it does have a fair amount of depth and complexity to it, which is a good thing. You might wonder what all of these spinny things are. You know, that keeps things in my elemental confine from being stolen. It extends the safe storage available there. These lock trapdoors in the storage room do the same thing. Fortunately, the vault is always kind of vulnerable to being attacked. Now, I'd love to level the vault up to level 4, but my god, yeah. Cold iron ingots and true silver ingots, those are things that are incredibly expensive to create. Like cold iron ingot, for instance, if I want to make one of those, I need, for each ingot, 500 iron and 100 primordial ice. So, yeah, that's a little pricey, and indeed the other resource I can't even get yet. I don't even know how to make true silver ingots. I have no idea. It's probably a research-based thing. Whatever the case, though, like I say, it is enjoyable, and it's got a fair amount of depth to it. I don't really know where it goes after that. I mean, obviously you can go and attack other people's dungeons. Eventually you'll be able to conquer expansion dungeons once you have the correct resource and a good army size. You can't conquer somebody's main dungeon. You can go steal things from it, but that's about it. But you can go and pillage people and try and be the very best like no one ever was. There are a couple of things that I would want to point out. The shop, for instance. Hopefully this actually gets frapsed. We'll find out one way or the other. So, like most Facebook games, this does have microtransactions, and in this case it's Station Cash, which is attached to your SOE account. If you already play SOE games, you're probably familiar with Station Cash. It's pretty much their universal currency. So here you can buy a bunch of boosts, and, you know, I bought some of this stuff because, hey, you know, it's just a little bit of money, I don't really care. And there are 2 permanent boosts, which, if you're gonna actually get into this game and you decide to get a little bit serious with it, I would recommend everyone gets, which is 3 extra goblins, which of course lets you mine more stuff and do more stuff, and extra room tiles. Those are permanent. Everything else is a temporary boost, and you can also instantly complete crafting, instantly complete upgrades, which usually take time to do, etc., and get a bunch of boosts for stuff. So, do you have to pay anything to play this game? No, you don't. You really do not, and yes, you can gain advantages by paying, but it's certainly by no means necessary. There is no point where you will need to buy anything in order to play it, which is concerning to a lot of people, I know. And as far as I can tell as well, it's actually kind of hard to spend a lot of money in this game because you can't keep just buying something, so most of the things are time-based boosts, so you're not going to sink thousands and thousands of dollars into a game like this. As regards to anything that's wrong with it, well, aside from the really freaking annoying looping music in the background and stuff like that, which thankfully you can turn off at the bottom right there, I don't really see anything wrong with it per se. I don't know where it will really go. I mean, I don't know how interesting it'll be to play in the long run, bearing in mind it is still in beta, and I don't know what the end game is really like on it. But it's certainly worth a try, and as I've said before, I think it is kind of intriguing that Facebook games get such a hard time from gamers, when in reality Facebook games evolved from stuff that we all used to play. I mean, I know I did. I played a ton of things like Planetarian and browser-based games, and as the technology advances, browser-based games are kind of making a comeback. There are some MMOs, like, say, the Battlestar Galactica MMO, which is supposed to be done via browser and some kind of plugin. It might be the Unity engine, I can't really remember. But whatever the case, I personally do not see a problem with a game like this at all. I think there's a lot of potential here. It does harken back to Dungeon Keeper in a very cool way. The style is kind of neat. It is pretty funny as well. So, yeah, you might want to give it a try, folks. You might want to give it a try. Set aside your inhibitions and, indeed, your preconceptions and your prejudices. And if you have a Facebook account, give it a bash. You know, you may very well actually enjoy it. For the meantime, it's kind of what I log into in the morning. I check my dungeon. I see if Bob's got angry about anything I've done to him. You know, you should probably go and raid Bob at some point. I need some more creatures and then go pillage Bob's dungeon again. See how mad he gets. But there you go, folks. That is Dungeon Overlord from Sony Online Entertainment, available exclusively over Facebook and currently in beta. My name's been Totalbiscuit, and I will see you next time.